Hello everyone. In the previous video, we went through example queries for SQL. In this video, let's learn about various keywords associated with SQL queries in general. I'm going to switch over to my slide deck and let's start talking about how exactly we can narrow down data of interest within a database. First of all, a database can contain multiple tables. We are going to have to specify exactly which table we are interested in. The from keyword in SQL language enables us to do that. Once you narrow down to a specific table, you want to mention which columns you're specifically interested in within that particular table. The select keyword is going to enable us to mention that. Then we can apply a specific condition so that we can pick out certain rows which satisfy that particular condition. Where keyword is going to enable us to apply a specific condition to take out specific rows that satisfy the condition within the columns of interest for us. The condition associated with the where keyword is going to be very similar to the condition associated with the conditional in Python, where you have the if keyword. There might be slight differences in terms of the syntax itself, but the concept is similar to what we have covered as a condition in Python programming language. Let's say that among all the rows which satisfy that specific condition, we are only interested in the first two rows. A limit keyword is going to enable us to mention that particular limit. Notice that 3 rows satisfied the original condition, but we are dropping the third one by limiting the number of rows to 2 here. A SQL query is going to return to you a data frame which contains the specific values that satisfy your column selection and also the row condition and also the limit that you're applying. For instance, if we run this particular query, we're just going to get the data for column number 1 and column number 2 for the first 2 matching rows, because if we mention a limit, that's going to drop the third matching row over here. Let's talk about how we can take these keywords and format a SQL query. You're going to typically see SQL queries which have the format select something from something. SQL is very flexible when it comes to case sensitivity and using a lot of white space. So you can use all caps for your keywords or all small case letters for your keywords. And you can also split your query into the form select something from something as 2 different lines. The SQL query is going to always end with a semicolon. Since we are using pandas, that is automatically taken care of for us. So I'm not going to be using semicolons whenever I type in a query. Let's talk about optional stuff. We covered a couple of other keywords. Where exactly does that go? You're typically going to have this format where you have select something from something, and then you're going to have optional stuff. Let's talk about what goes into the placeholder which we have after the select and after the from. After the from, you're going to have to mention the table name, because from keyword enables you to narrow down to a specific table. Let's say that we are interested in the boarding tables data. After the select keyword, you can either use star to retrieve all the column values, or you can explicitly mention specific columns. Example of a star query on the boarding would give you all of the column data for the boarding table. Let's say that we are only interested in route and daily boardings columns. Then we can mention that by saying select route, daily boardings from boarding. You're going to have to separate the columns of interest with a comma. Here is another example. You can say select star from routes to get all the column values from the route table. Or if you're interested only in the route URL, you can say select route URL from routes. Notice that some of the SQL keywords aren't actually directly from the English language. You might phrase this sentence slightly differently if you were to describe your query using just regular English language. you're going to have to get used to what each of those keywords represent. Select represents column selection, and from represents specific table selection from the database. Let's talk about the optional stuff now. We spoke about the where keyword and the limit keyword. I haven't mentioned what exactly is order by. We'll talk about each of these in detail with examples. Let's say that in the boarding table, we are only interested in selecting the row entries which have information about route 80. We can mention that by using the where keyword, which enables you to specify a specific condition. Notice that the condition here says route equal to 80. That's not how you would mention this particular condition in Python, correct? Recall that equal to in Python means assignment, double equal to means comparison, whereas in SQL, equal to just refers to the fact that we are applying a comparison condition, which is going to be the equal. There are other keywords like. I'm not going to be covering any of those in detail, but you're welcome to explore all of that on your own. There are going to be slight differences with respect to SQL syntax for a condition and the Python syntax for a condition. We are just going to get used to all of that by going through a lot of examples. Let's talk about order by. Let's say that we want to order the rows that satisfy a particular query by a specific ordering. When you mention the order by keyword and mention a column name, you're going to order that particular column's value in an ascending order. So all of the rows get rearranged by that. So order by is equivalent to sorting in Python by a specific column's value. How can you mention whether you want to do ascending order sort or descending order sort? You can mention by mentioning DSC keyword, which stands for descending, which means that the largest value will appear first and then the smallest value will appear last. So this is sort of mentioning the reverse argument parameter when it comes to sorted function call or sort method call. You can explicitly mention ascending by using the ASC keyword after the column name over here. Let's go through an example where we have a limit keyword. Recall that limit enables us to just limit the number of rows that are being returned from that query's answer. Can you think of a way where this will be useful? You've all answered multiple questions about datasets which ask you what are the top 3 of something, correct? Or what are the bottom 3 of something. You can very easily use the limit keyword in SQL syntax to answer such questions. All right, let's talk about how you can use a combination of all of these optional entities within your SQL query. The order for the optional items can be anything. You can use any combination. You don't have to limit yourself to where, order by, and limit. You can say order by, where, and limit. It's up to you to phrase your own query. The ordering for select and from should be as such. So that's going to be the base query on which you're going to build up optional stuff. All right, let's go through some more demos with the BusDB dataset. So we are going to use that database to answer this question of how many people ride the bus within the city of Madison limits. We are going to focus on the daily boardings column in the boarding table. Let's go refresh ourselves with respect to the output that comes from the boarding table when you run the select star from boarding query. So you have a few columns like index, top ID, route, latitude, longitude, and daily boardings. Since we are interested in answering this question of how many people ride the bus, we are going to focus only on the daily boardings over here. So let's first start writing this query. And we are going to first look at how we can answer this question using pandas. Let me give you one more syntax with respect to mentioning a query. instead of mentioning the entire query as a string argument for your read underscore SQL function, you can separate that out into a variable, and let me give you a format for that. So I'm going to use the keyword query, and I can use triple double quotes, and within the triple double quotes I can mention the query that I'm interested in. So I'm going to say select, and the column that I'm interested in is daily boardings. I'm going to copy paste the column name here, and then I can mention from which table. So that's going to be the boarding table, correct? Once you configure this query like this, you can use pd.read underscore SQL function, and you can mention query as the first argument and connection as the second argument. Let me capture the return value into a data frame, and I'm just going to display the data frame to you here. Notice that we are getting all the rows for the daily boardings column over here. That's the SQL way of narrowing down a specific column of interest here for you. Let's try to answer this question. This question is asking how many people get on a bus in Madison every day, correct? We can do that by capturing the daily boardings column in this data frame and just by computing a sum of that, correct? I'm going to use the variable bus underscore riders instead of using df here. So I can simply say bus underscore riders dot sum, and that's going to give us all the count of people who are taking a bus in Madison every day, correct? So this is the pandas way of answering this question. I'm going to briefly introduce you to a summarization technique which we are going to learn all about as part of next lecture. You can do the same by using SQL summarization. Instead of using the sum function call in pandas, we can directly summarize the data within the query itself. I can say that instead of getting all the values of daily boardings column, I want to get the sum of all the values in the daily boardings column, and that's the query itself. And you're going to directly get the number of riders as the response out of this query. Let me go ahead and run it and display the value here for you. Notice that you're getting the exact same value, but this time you're getting it as a data frame. That's because you incorporated the summarization as part of your query itself. Right, let me switch back to my slide deck here, and let's go through one more demo problem. Let's say that we are interested in the bus routes which hit the westernmost part of the city of Madison limits. If you have to deal with the westernmost area, you're going to have to deal with the smallest longitude over here. Recall that we can use the order by keyword to order the specific row entries based on a specific column's value. Let's use that for this particular example. I'm just going to copy paste this query, but I'm going to modify it. So I'm going to get rid of what we had previously, and I'm going to just leave the placeholders for select and from here. We want all the data from the boarding table for the buses which go to the west side. So I'm going to say star, which selects all the columns, and I'm going to say boarding for the table name. And we have to order the data by the smallest longitude so that we can focus on the west side, correct? So I'm going to say order by LON column. That's the column for the longitude. And then I need the smallest values, so I'm going to order by ascending values. Let me go ahead and run this query, and this is going to give us west bus details. So I'm going to say west underscore buses for my variable name over here. All right, we are getting the data set ordered by the longitude column over here. Notice that we are getting the smallest longitude value first and then the greater longitude later. don't get thrown off by the negative sign. Since we are in the US, the longitude is going to be in negative. So negative smaller values is going to be larger as a number than the next value. Right. Let's say that we are interested only in the bus which takes us as far as west as possible. I can do that by using the limit keyword, and I just want to look at the very first entry, correct? So I'm going to run the query now again. Looks like this is the latitude, longitude, which is going to be the farthest west in Madison city limits. So you can take that query result latitude longitude and put it into Google Maps, and that's going to show you where exactly that particular location is there in the city of Madison limits. Looks like that is actually the Epic campus. Let me go ahead and search it one more time. Uh, this is the Epic campus. That's going to be the farthest that you can get to on the west side within the Madison city limits. All right, that's all we are going to go through for today's lecture. Feel free to explore the rest of the demos on your own. I'll wrap up the lecture video here. That's it for today.